26. We don't have a elected president to preside over their meeting, so before we get into anything, we need to open it up to the floor to see if we can entertain a motion or discussion for election of officers so that we can elect the president to preside over the meeting today and the vice president. And then Kim will be serving today as the secretary, and her resignation will be effective after the end of the meeting. So you can also vote to elect a secretary who would start at the next meeting tonight, or you can wait for that until the next meeting.
What's the secretary do?
So the bylaws kind of set forth, but they're responsible for signing all documents, and then with the minutes, either preparing them or reviewing them. Is the main function of the secretary.
We also I prepared the minutes because I'd asked Michelle if I could do it at one time, and it ended up taking a lot longer than I thought. But I think we had passed a motion that she would prepare the minutes. We just had agreed that I would do them the first time, and if I think I'd stated something in my email that should that still be the case, or if whoever will replace me and the remainder of the commission wanted it done another way, I guess that would be up to the commission.
Is that something you still want to do, Michelle?
I'm fine either way, whatever you guys choose to do.
It reads, and some of the numbers are new. I think we should go through the brief introduction like we did last time.
Yeah, sure.
If that'd be a good idea.
Absolutely. Yeah, why don't we just kind of go through everyone if you don't just want to state your name.
My name is Steve Shadalik. I'm with the Tiffany County School Corporation.
Mark Burmester. I work for Cook Medical. Lived in Dayton since 2001.
I'm Larry Heiser. I've been here 25 years and love this town, just love it. I've been on the corner of Main and Conjunction. I'm the one that has all the lights that you see all the time. I was asked to be on this commission, and I'm kind of excited to get involved with what's going on in the community. So.
I'm Carl Snodgrass. I moved here in 2015. I'm really fairly boring, so that's about it.
My name is Stephen Shuley. I've been in town now, I guess about 8 years. My wife and I have moved here. We wanted to live in a small town and be involved, and I'm in retail.
I'm Kimberly Wright. I'm currently the Secretary of the Commission. I'm an attorney. I live here in Dayton, and I don't know if the rest of you know, but I know that the prior commission members of the last meeting, I'm resigning. I'm thinking too far ahead. I'm resigning. I'm currently running for elected office in the county, so with all of those obligations, as well as obligations with my 10-year-old, this was going to be a bit much to keep up with. So, thank you, and I wish all of you the best.
Yeah, and the bylaws do kind of briefly address the duties of officers. So, according to the bylaws, we have the president shall preside at all meetings. So that would mean that they're going to run the meeting and handle motions, things like that. Sign all documents, and then just fulfill all other duties as specifically described. Vice President shall assist the President at the meetings and serve in the absence of the President and have all powers of the President in that event. And then the Secretary shall sign all official documents.
So I guess my thought would be, does anyone in particular want any of those positions? Not to be a loaded question, but
No, it makes
I think
sense.
everybody's probably thought about it, so.
And Reed, I think those are limited to the voting members, correct?
Correct.
So I believe Steve is not a voting member, as being appointed by the school board.
Correct. So we need 2 of the 4 of you tonight to be elected as president and vice president for sure. And then the secretary could be one of the remaining 2 or Kim Davis. And, you know, we are kind of at the tail end of the process legally of setting up the TIF district. Something to keep in mind is that the main function of the redevelopment commission will be to oversee any funds that are captured through the TIF district. And there's going to be some time until that actually, until the money actually comes in. So we will at least be scheduled to meet for the remainder of the rest of the year. We'll meet if we need to. But there will be some time for you to kind of get acclimated more towards your role, and you know, all of these positions will not necessarily be an immediate need for you to do a lot, or you know, we might not have a lot of action that we need to take at our meetings this year.
Now, you mentioned time, how soon will this money come in, do you have any idea?
Yeah, I believe that the soonest that it could be would be for development this year, so assess 2020, pay 2021.
So fairly soon.
I don't believe that we'll have anything in 2020.
Do you have any idea what kind of money we're talking?
Yes, that's covered in the tax impact statement, and I think, so after we get through the election of officers, so we can run a meeting, we'll kind of have Jason give an overview, and I'll kind of give you kind of a summary of where we are.
And Reed, if I could add, for Mark, right, for Mark's benefit, I tried to take a few, I tried to put a few extra notes in the minutes, because Mr. Summer, who was here last time with Baker Tilly, and Attorney Murtaugh both did a pretty good job of explaining a few of the different sections in the declaratory resolution that might be helpful to kind of understand some of the things that you're talking about. I highly encourage anyone to go back and listen to the recording of the last meeting as well, because I went a little overboard, I thought, in the minutes, but I thought it might be instructive for new members.
Well, my thoughts would be, if somebody who's been here longer than I would be the best choice for a president. I know, as just coming on board, I'm not really familiar with what's going on so far than what I've read, so.
Thanks, Steve, for having the ones that are.
Remaining?
I've been here before.
Oh, well, then that's gonna make it
Four of you
tougher.
are ladies.
That being-
Any of the 4 of you know parliamentary procedure better than the others? That would be a good start.
So are you nominating Steve?
He can't be,
He can't, he's the only person that he can't.
So is it run by Robert's Rule of Order? Or?
Yes.
Well, it sounds like there's our man. If you're good with that, Mark, I mean, I think that would be, if you've got a familiarity with that, I think that, as somebody who's attended a lot of regular meetings, I think it's always important somebody has a good grasp of
Well,
how they should be run.
I've seen that go to a lot of meetings at work, I know that. I don't know how much order we have in them, but.
So a nomination?
I nominate Mark.
I'll second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to elect Mark as president passes.
Thank you. So, I guess what we need to do next is to elect the vice president.
I would nominate Steve Sheehan.
Second. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so do we want to elect the secretary tonight, or do we want to postpone that until our next meeting?
We're in vote motion, I think, we might just keep on, so that we're ready to go with the next. 37 days.
So there's going to be one more member that will be on this board next meeting. Would you want to do it now, or would you want to wait until we have one more member to choose from? Because I think at tonight's meeting, we probably would not be able to elect someone that's not sitting here tonight. Is that correct?
That is correct.
But I'll listen to whatever.
I move we postpone it.
Motion to postpone until next meeting.
I second.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. We'll wait until next week, next month, to work together. Okay.
Do you just want me to go ahead and do the minutes then for this meeting?
Yes, if you could, Michelle. The next item, Mark, would be approval of the minutes of the November 20th, 2019 meeting.
Do we need to read the minutes, have the minutes read to approve them?
No, you don't have to have them read aloud. So we just need to have the opportunity for discussion, and then if there's a motion made.
So-
Has everyone been able to get a copy of the minutes from all that meeting?
Yeah. Michelle, just wrote it down.
Do we have any discussion? Is there any discussion on the meeting, minutes from the previous meeting?
The only thing I would add would be, like I said earlier, since you weren't at, or if you were not at the meeting, I remember seeing, I think you probably might have been briefly, it never hurts to have listen to the recording. Sometimes the paper and then putting it into context can help you. It's about an hour, a little over an hour recording.
And where would a person go to see?
Michelle, the clerk has recording. I actually returned it, so from my version.
So,
I think the video traditionally has been posted of most of the meetings, the town council meetings, and then I think this meeting as well, and Ms. Marsh, and then I think that the town is now doing as well.
so that's posted online somewhere.
The first redevelopment commission meeting is just audio. This one is live, and it is on our official Facebook page. So right when you leave here, but if you want the audio from the first meeting, I can give that to you.
I can present it. So, we have a motion to approve the minutes.
I said,
And a second? seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I signed them in the clerk treasurer attests.
All right. So we have been working with Jason Sundler at Baker Tilly, and Jason is here tonight to kind of give you some of the same information that has been presented to the Dayton County Council before, and that we presented at last meeting on Indiana law regarding a TIF district, what it means now that we're at this point to set it up, what the information that he has gathered in the tax impact statement, which is part of the process that we just sent out, means for the development that we know is going, and then how that works in the future. And then just because you guys are all new to this, I'll kind of, before he talks, just kind of give everyone an overview of where we're at and the steps that we completed. So last year, the first step was actually had the Dayton Town Council pass the ordinance establishing the Dayton Redevelopment Commission and appointing the members. And then we had the first meeting, and the purpose of that first meeting was to adopt a confirmatory resolution, or a declaratory resolution, sorry. The main thing that is at issue or has some flexibility in that is the area that we're looking at for the TIF district. So that's the allocation area, and the redevelopment commissions, members of the Dayton Town Council, and with input of area plan commission, looked at what areas they thought would be best, and a big component of that is whether areas are going to be residential versus commercial. There's no benefit to having an increase in assessed value for residential property in your TIF area, so that's the one main consideration. If we were, what we're asking is a confirmatory resolution to say that basically we're going to set up this TIF district. We want to have the Dayton Redevelopment Commission manage money so that this will come in there, but this is the area that we're looking at. This is the allocation area that we're starting with. You can change it, but we would have to go through significant legal steps in order to amend the allocation area for the TIF district. So we want to make sure that we get it right. So where we're at now is a public hearing, and really what we're asking for from the public is any comments on whether they're in favor or whether they're not in favor of voting to approve the confirmatory resolution. That's really what is on your plate. That's the action that you can take or not take tonight. I'm sure that there are going to be a lot of interest or discussions regarding what kind of development that people would like to see or would hope to see. And this is a time that we can certainly start to have those discussions, and you guys can listen to that. But really, the purpose of the meeting tonight is limited to the specific action in front of you, which is deciding whether you want to vote in favor of the confirmatory resolution, and whether you think
So this confirmatory resolution has been put together, and what were the parties that put it together to where it stands today?
Sure.
That's my question.
Yeah, so really the confirmatory resolution, or the declaratory resolution, explains what investment is going to be done in this area. Okay, so there's going to be about $1 million potentially that is going to be invested if the Dayton Town Council decides to go forward with the extension of Yost Road. So that project is going to be in the area. So what we're looking at is, and what the document explains is, what all types of potential improvements will be needed for utilities, for things like that. So there's a specific list, and that was something that was worked on between the advisors, town council, and all that. Really, other than that piece of it, there's really not much in the declaratory resolution that we had to get a lot of input from the town council or the redevelopment commission members. The main thing that did involve was the map, and the map was done by some town council members, in addition to the people at Baker Tilly, Jason, who have done a lot of these TIF districts. And then also we got input from area plan, and then all the Dayton Redevelopment Commission members had access to that map, and that was something that we looked at, and when they decided to go ahead and do that first meeting.
So whatever we approve, does that still have to go to the county development?
No. What we have done is, it started with the declaratory resolution being approved by the Dayton Redevelopment Commission. And then the next step, because this includes some property that's not in the town of Dayton, and we're going to start it off as a joint TIF district with the Dubuque County. We went in front of the county commissioners to get their approval, and they assigned all of the proceeds that would be captured to the town of Dayton for that area. And then we went in front of the area plan commission, and the purpose, their involvement was to review the declaratory resolution to see if the proposed plans match up with the development guide or the zoning plans for the town of Dayton. And they approved that, and then it came back to the Dayton Town Council for the limited purpose to see if, for them to approve that what the redevelopment commission does and does comply with the area plan requirements. Then it's back to you guys and open to the public for any comments. If you guys approve, then we'll go back to the town council for their final approval.
So it sounds like there's been a lot of thought put into this, and it's already basically put together. So before we would confirm this, do we have any public, does that just need to happen here, or should we, can we solicit input from other people that might have some concerns about that?
Yeah, I'm going to open it up to Jason for him to talk and give you guys an explanation of what his involvement is, and just a little bit more of the details on the TIF part of it, and what they've done now that they have the tax impact statement prepared. And then we'll open it up for any public comments, and then after we finish that, then we will be ready to have a vote. So we don't need anything, any action from you guys. So
Okay.
with that, I'll go ahead and ask Jason to address us.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear myself. Thank you, Reed. I do have a copy of the tax impact statement that Reed mentioned. But as Reed mentioned, this has gone through a number of different bodies, a number of different approval process. And one of these steps that's also required is for Redevelopment Commission to prepare an impact statement and provide this to all the overlapping tax units that this TIF area will touch. And so we've done this on your behalf, and we have sent this to all the overlapping tax condensed districts. It's required that they receive this at least 10 days before the meeting, which that has been done. So this is really just a summary of the declaratory resolution that Reed had talked about. Some of the key points that I'll talk about is, as Reed mentioned, the first meeting that the Redevelopment Commission had when they created this and approved the declaratory was back in November 2019. That's an important date because the base year is based upon the January 1 before you approve the declaratory resolution. So since the declaratory resolution was approved November of 2019, the base is January 1, 2019 for taxes payable in 2020. That's important to you because whatever assessed value is in the area that you chose to include, all the taxes that are generated from that area continue to flow through and help fund the budget of the town, the school, the library, and the county. So all those taxes that are currently being generated in the area that you picked and chose as to be a new allocation area, those taxes for this year, they will not be captured. Any new development, any growth in commercial property or retail property or increase in land value that occurs out there starting in 2021, that increased assessed value, take that times the town's tax rate, that's what we call tax increment. That's the amount of revenue that you will now be receiving going forward, and then you'll be responsible for it and using it to help develop that area. So I think one of the questions was how soon you'll start generating revenue. It's as soon as there's been proposed the truck stop out there. So as soon as that gets built and then it's assessed and it starts paying taxes, those new taxes will be distributed to your board and deposited to an allocation fund that will be held at the town. And that's what you'll be responsible for to use to help fund the projects. And the list of projects are on page 2. That Reed also mentioned that was in the plan that was also approved back in November. So as Reed said, if something happens and there's a new project comes along that's not on this list or it's not in your plan, you do have the ability to amend the plan and add to it or subtract from it. You have the ability to add parcels to your TIF area or take away parcels, and you can do that, but as Reed said, you have to go through these same 6 steps that you just went through. Something else, as far as another question that was asked, if you turn to page 6, kind of the estimate of tax increment that we anticipate to receive. As I mentioned, we had to show the impact of the overlapping taxing districts, and on page 6 kind of shows from a dollars and cents what that impact might be. So this is kind of a 3 scenario, top, middle, and bottom section of the page. If you look at the top part, that shows you what the current assessed value and tax rates are for the town of Dayton. And it has it broken out between the different units. You have the county, the township, the town, the school, and the library. So if you kind of add up all their different tax rates, you can see that for 2020, the tax rate for the town of Dayton was $1.86, 1.8676. So that's kind of what it is right now. If you look at the middle of the page, scenario 2, this is if you decide to go forward and create this allocation area. And the 2 developments that we have listed here, the McCoy Group Truck Stop and the TDS Automation, they've already talked about making development and investment. So whether you create the TIF area or not, they're planning on making that investment. But so if you create the area, instead of this new taxes going to help fund the budget of the overlapping tax units, you'll collect those taxes. So that's what we've shown here in a little box there. These are estimates based upon talking to the developers, but the estimate new assessed value from the truck stops about $1.3 million, and the expansion for the TDS automation is $150,000. So you take that times the tax rate, you're looking at about $27,000 of new taxes that would be generated in this area. So that's what you would collect if the assessments come to fruition is estimated here. So that's the amount that you would receive on an annual basis.
And what year is that again?
I think the truck stuff's supposed to, have they started construction or moving dirt yet?
They started contacting me to get the development guide, but
So assuming it gets done, say it gets done this year, then it wouldn't be assessed till January 1, 2021, paying taxes in 2022. So that would be the soonest that you would start receiving money.
And you keep saying truck stop, is that the dealership?
The dealership, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. And at the bottom of the page, since that development was going to be occurring anyway, whether you create the area or not, if you didn't create that area, that $1.4 million of assessed value would no longer be captured, but it would flow through the tax base of the school and the town. So if you can see at the top of the page, if you look at the town of Dayton, kind of the middle, you see the current tax rates, 0.4458. And you can see the tax base is $44,090,000. And the budget of the town is $196,000. That $196,000, that budget is what's payable from property taxes. That's really dictated by the state. And it's, I know I'm going to live in more detail, but I'm trying to help you understand the impacts. I think it's important for you to understand as you may get questions. The state dictates how much the budget can increase for the town each year. It's called the growth quotient. It's between 3 to 4% per year. So it doesn't matter if you have a new manufacturing company that's going to invest $20 million of assessed value and bring in 200 employees, the state's going to tell you that your budget can't grow more than 3% a year. So what we've done here is you look at the bottom of the page, for the town, we've kept that tax rate at this thing, again, $196,557. Again, that doesn't change whether you capture the TIF or not. But what does change is your tax base. So you can see the tax base goes from $44 million to $45 million. Because that $1 million from the truck dealership, you're no longer capturing, so you add to the tax base. So if you have the same budget, but a higher tax base, your tax rate goes down. So you can see now the tax rate for the town's portion is not 44 cents, it's 43 cents. So we did that for all the different units, and if you weren't to create this area and didn't capture the assessed value, the tax rate for the town of Dayton would go from $1.86 to $1.85. And there are a couple of funds, or CUME funds, where they do see additional revenues, where the tax rate can stay the same, and you can see additional revenues, and we did that too for the 3 funds in the Dayton taxing district. And if you didn't pass through or capture the assessed value and pass it through, those 3 units would receive an extra $700 a year. So from a town standpoint, you have those list of projects that you want to fund. The town doesn't have the revenue currently in its coffers to pay for those funds. So this is another mechanism, another tool for you to generate revenue and pay for those projects that you either would be able to fund or have to dip into your general fund or other current revenues to pay for.
Jason, can you explain how much the town would get in taxes? Like if we didn't have the TIF district, like for this development, like that's, when you look at this, the way to look at that is basically like we only get those 2.
Really for the town would only get $260. If you were to not create the TIF area and pass it through, you'd only get $260 in the cities for the town's CUME cap development fund. The tax rate within everyone within the town would go down by a penny, but the town would not receive any new revenue except for that $260. By creating this TIF area, you're now going to capture or collect $27,000. I mean, as long as you have projects that are going to benefit the area, I mean, this is a more efficient way of funding projects. Because an alternative would be, I'm not saying the town will do this, but an alternative, if you don't have the funds on hand, you could issue a bond payable from property taxes to raise that same $27,000. But the tax rate needed to get that $27,000 would be greater than a penny. So this is really a more efficient way of accomplishing your needs.
So if if they had to issue the bond, then our tax rate would go up.
It would, and probably by more than a penny, by more than the offset by passing through the assessed value.
And then the long-term scenario of what is generated from all of that is much greater.
Yeah, I mean,
They would be able to.
the whole purpose of this board is to look at the health of the community and find ways to help grow it. You know, encourage economic development, and this is a tool to do that. There's other things you can do, you can do tax abatement, you can use other towns' funds. TIF is just another tool to help grow the town. Because the goal is to increase tax base and keep tax rates low and bring in people and generate more income tax.
So there's gonna be some period of time before any of this money would come in to be distributed for whatever use we would decide it to be used for. In the meantime, I know that you've got fees that are incurring. So do I understand correctly that we would actually be borrowing money from the town and then paying them back when we do get the money? How does that,
You can, yes. I think because you don't have any revenues right now, unless the town decided to, I guess, grant you some funds. But I think right now, I think the intent is the town to pay for the professional fees, and then you can reimburse the town back with future tax increment as it's collected. It's not required, but you can do that.
so we're not immediately going into debt?
No. Well, I guess it depends on how you look at it. Here talking to you, yeah.
Probably Peter took home.
But it's the same thing for the road as well. Right now, the town is going to be the one that has to pay for their portion of that road project. But potentially, if this is successful and there are funds built up in the TIF, then the town could be reimbursed.
Right.
And that's completely up to you guys. But, you know, if the town decides to spend any money for anything, they have no guarantee that they will get reimbursement, but you guys could decide to do that.
And a lot of communities use TIF to help for matching grants. So even the community crossings that are very popular right now, a lot of communities use TIF for that purpose to help double what they're going to receive otherwise.
And then if we wanted to look at, you know, well, we have 1.45 in development going on right now, so we see those numbers, but you know, how would this work if we had 10 million in development? Like how you've done that is on that next page, right?
Right. On the next page, because the taxing allocation area does cover two different taxing districts. It's in the town of Dayton, but it's also in Sheffield Township. So we just showed for illustration, you know, the goal again is to build a road out there and hopefully have additional development. If there's additional development that occurs that's commercial or retail, you'll capture that as well. And we just showed for illustrative $1 million. If $1 million were developed in the Sheffield portion of the taxing district, that would generate an additional $14,000. And if you get to the point where you have more revenue coming in than you do projects, each year the Redevelopment Commission is required to make a determination by July 15th of each year, or June 15th of each year, whether you have more TIF than what you need. And if you do decide that you have more TIF than what you need, you can pass through some of that assessed value to the overlapping tax units. It's not all or nothing. It could be a $1 million or a percentage. But that's something that every year you'll need to make that determination and send a letter to the auditor's office and all the overlapping taxing districts that, yes, we want to pass through something, or no, we don't want to pass through anything because we need it all for our projects. So that's an annual decision that if you ever get to the point where you have, you know, they go gangbusters and you have all kinds of development, you can pass through some of that and start reducing the tax rate sooner than waiting until the period to dissolve.
And 14,000 might not seem like that much money, or even 10 times that if it was 10 million, but you can see that that's going to be per year.
Right.
And then, so if you're looking at, you know, 5 million or 10 million in TIF, you're getting those numbers, you know, and you're looking at it for, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, that's how all of this, you know, adds up and what you guys have to look at in comparison to the costs of setting it up, which are not going to be the same each year. You know, if you look at it in year one, yeah, we might have more professional fees than
My concern was the current,
27,000.
the current cost of what it was gonna be and how that was gonna be affected. So,
Right.
but I thought I understood it, but apparently I did, so.
So in other words, if you don't use it, you don't lose it. You can pass through.
You're not required to pass it through. I mean, like the $27,000 isn't going to get you very much all at once, but you can accumulate it and build it up over time. So as long as, someone from the public comes and say, hey, you're hoarding money, you can say, no, we're not hoarding it, we're building it up for Project X that we're going to pay down the road. So as long as you have a list of projects that you can say, yeah, we're funding, then you can keep it. But if you have $10 million in the bank and you're sitting on it not doing anything, that might be difficult to make that statement, and you might want to think about passing through.
So, I seem to remember from the last town meeting, is there another company that's planning to build? Was there a third company?
Yes.
That's not, none of that's on here.
That's news to me. I wasn't aware of that, so that's.
Right, that happened after January 1 of this
Okay.
year. Yeah, so that would be already one additional, if that does happen. All right,
So we need the confirmation.
let's open it up for public comment. Thank you, Jason.
Who's the company you're talking about?
The third one.
The third company?
What's that?
Who is the third company you're talking about after January 1 that's coming in?
The third development.
Third development?
The one that you guys just went in front of APC and you wanted them to wait.
Oh, Teeter?
Yeah.
The rezone.
The rezoning of the land, yeah.
Right. We don't know what that would be.
Yeah, that could be 10 years down the road when they actually sell it to somebody to develop it too, so. Yeah, okay.
Do we go up there if we have a question?
Yes, please, if you could just
Sure.
go up and say your name up there.
Sure. Jen Manego, 625 Harrison Circle. I'm still trying to wrap my head around all this, and I was really trying to understand, but when you say we'll get the money from TDS, but they're already there, so is it like if their taxes increase, we get that? Okay.
Right.
And it's expected to?
I think this the CDS is at the Sharp.
No, they're
Oh, they're looking at making a minor improvement expansion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so if they don't make any increases or new in development, then there won't be any new taxes
Gotcha,
and nothing will be received.
gotcha. Okay, thanks.
So only if they
Yeah.
actually make a development as far as land usage or something like that.
Any change in assessed value, increase in assessed value.
New
Yeah,
building.
Mark, can you explain what they're planning to build?
So if you notice out there, TDS is actually in the process of building a shop right now. So they've got all the permits and have went through all the paperwork, and so it won't be completed till this year. If I understood you correctly, that would be then taxed in '21, and they would receive the funds for the improvement in '22.
Correct.
Right. So while I'm up here, just for clarification, so the normal lifespan of a TIF district is how many years? 20?
25 years.
25?
And the date starts, the time clock starts when you actually issue bonds. So it could be longer than that if you don't issue any bonds.
Second question while I have you up here. So does the TIF district match the economic development area parcel for parcel? Okay.
I think it does. I think in this case it does.
Because I see in the economic development area, there's some that are on State Road 38, and I didn't know if that was going to be part of the TIF district.
I think it's just what's in yellow as part of the
Yeah.
allocation area.
Right. Okay. So it does match it?
Yes.
Okay.
Cindy Marsh, 749 Shady Lane. Jason, the stated uses for the TIF funds in the tax impact statement says roads and utilities and, I don't know, other infrastructure or something, but can the stated uses be changed? I mean, what if we wanted a park or walking trails or something that actually benefit the community? And the goal right now, I think, what they're looking at is to be able to fund the road, the Yost Drive. So, Mark, how locked in are we on it with Yost Drive?
Well, the town's made a commitment.
Yeah, that's what I thought, okay. So, but what about the other infrastructure? You know, the development guide says that the developers pay for extending the utilities. So, we have utilities as a stated use of our TIF funds. So would the development guide take precedence over that?
It's just saying that the town, or the redevelopment commission can spend money on utilities if they need to, it doesn't.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can make the plan as specific or as broad as you want. We just recommend that you make it broad, that way you don't have to go through those 6 steps process and amend the document every time you have a new project come up. So yeah, just because it's in your plan doesn't mean you're going to do it or you have to do it. It just gives you the ability to do it.
So should it be amended now, maybe, to include recreational areas for the benefit of the town or something like that? Could that be added?
That's,
Or would it,
Isn't
doesn't matter?
it already that way, though? I mean, so it's for the benefit of that area, but how you determine what benefits that area, unless the state changed the law, how you determine what benefits that area is very broad. So it's wide open, and then it's all yet to be determined. That's the way I understand it.
Yeah, and what we did was we started with a list and we presented that to the town council. And I asked if anyone wanted to remove anything from that list or if we wanted to add anything to it based on what we all think might go in there. And that's how we came with the list. But again, that is not a limitation.
yeah, and on the list, it actually has construct or reconstruct public park, construct or reconstruct pedestrian bicycle trail, construct and reconstruct sidewalks.
Oh,
So I
great.
think some of that stuff is already
Okay,
in there.
I guess I didn't go far enough.
Any other public comment?
I'll make the Madonna Snyder, 742 Shady Lane. And my comment is that I think the TIF district is a really great way to get the developers through their taxes to pay for the infrastructure that is needed to bring in more development, rather than it coming out of us taxpayers. If we don't do the TIF district and we build that road, then that's, all of us are going to be paying for it. Whereas with the TIF district, as the businesses are built and put in, they're the ones who are paying the taxes that will pay for the Yost Drive extension and any other infrastructure that we need.
Thank you.
Tyrone Taylor, 734 Walnut Street. As for the Yost Road, I look at that as kind of the jugular vein for all this development in that TIF area. But the one thing I'm kind of concerned about, I was trying to look at the map, anything that is going to be east of Yost Road that's in the TIF district, which I don't know if you guys are wanting to build commercial and industrial there, if that was going to be residential, because the old area plan, comprehensive plan, that was a more of a residential area. And you know, you don't want to put the TIF into that, so I just want to make sure that if you guys are looking into that, or if you are planning that maybe in the future you do want to have some commercial that's backed up, or kind of on the side of Deerfield all the way out to Dayton Road. I did notice there's on the corner of Dayton Road and Haggerty Lane, there's a big section that's yellow for the TIF, and I didn't know if that wasn't on purpose, like maybe thinking of a gas station, or if that was just you know, in case that ever was residential, so you don't lose money that way.
Yeah, I do think that the plan is for Tribune County Area Plan to update that plan very soon, once we get those properties annexed. And I do think from what they mentioned when they reviewed, the plan was that, you know, this area has taken on a different development from what's already there. And I don't think it's likely that there will be residential in that area.
So you guys don't think that on that field out there, you're gonna just do industrial next to like the farm and stuff that's behind Dayton Road? I mean, that's the only thing, I mean, if you look at that map, and you guys go look at that area where Yost Road goes straight through, you know, everything on the side of Dayton. I mean, if I lived in, like, right there in Deerfield, I don't know if I'd want like a huge industrial place that close. I know McAllister's kind of behind their berm, but that's, you know, that last round of houses, you could have basically anything if it's zoned right.
And the other part of that is that developers, you know, like the people we have don't come in front of the Dayton Redevelopment Commission to like get a permit, like it's a historical commission. So those issues are really for the Dayton Town Council. And I think that, you know, the Redevelopment Commission's role is simply to administer the funds after those funds get there. And, you know, I think that you're raising great points, and we have some of that already that's, you know, going on out there with the rezones. But the, you know, any approvals regarding utilities or anything that developers are gonna need, or zoning, is all gonna be handled by the Dayton Town Council and not really the Redevelopment Commission, just like it always has.
Yep, thanks. I have a question for you though. Can you set up a redevelopment area that's not in the TIF district to use those funds, like in economic redevelopment?
Any funds collected in that allocation area, it can be used outside of it, but it has to be for projects that's benefiting it. So like if you had a road that's outside the allocation area, but it's going into the area, you can say it's benefiting it, or utilities or something like that. So you can use for projects outside, but it's safe to straight face that it's benefiting the area.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comment? Discussion? So, do I hear a motion for approving the conformatory resolution?
So moved.
Moved in second. All in favor, say aye, by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
All right.
All right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
What do we close these for?
Here we go.
We're gonna need you guys to stay and sign.
See you guys.
B-U-H-R-M-E-S.